Hey Meno Warriors, welcome back to my channel. I'm Kate and I share a weekly video on a Monday with you all about menopause. Natural menopause, I haven't ever taken HRT myself. I have nothing against it. I think we're all individual and need to find out what works best for us. But whether you take HRT or whether you want to not take HRT, you didn't get on with it, it doesn't, you just have your reasons. I think a healthy lifestyle is also going to support you wherever you're at. So hormone replacement or no hormone replacement. Today, I'm actually going to be talking about fear and feeling more fearful through the menopause, not fearful of the menopause, but that horrible, horrible sensation of doom and gloom that can creep up upon you. Now, I felt it. A lot of ladies that I work with feel it, and there is no real explanation for it at all, except for it just suddenly thunders into you. For me, it feels like it's on my chest. It feels like it's bitty in my head. And it's the most random things that can trigger it. It might just be somebody mentioning something that for some reason sets off that sense of fear. And the reason for that is, again, it's our falling estrogen levels. Estrogen has a really falling estrogen has a really negative impact on our limbic system, so a sort of reptilian brain. So it's called the amygdala. And that is where the majority of our behaviors are controlled by, about 90%. So you've probably heard of the iceberg analogy. So you're looking at the sea and you see the iceberg at the top popping out, even though the iceberg might be massive. And that is just a tiny, tiny section of the enormous iceberg that's underneath the surface of the water. And the surface of the water really designates the difference between your conscious thoughts and actions and behaviors and your subconscious thoughts, actions and behaviors. And the subconscious is huge. So as we go through the menopause, our estrogen levels fall. You might be perimenopausal, so your estrogen levels are falling and rising and falling and rising, which is why some days you might feel, yeah, you're on top of the world. And then the next day, or indeed the next half day, or indeed the next half an hour, it all comes crashing down upon you. And it is really because as the falling levels of estrogen really do have a negative impact on our amygdala and how we respond to threats and stressors. So of course we don't, the majority of us are not worried about being gobbled up by some wild beast these days, but our lives are incredibly stressful. So on top of the fact that our amygdala, or I'll call it our limbic, our reptilian brain, is probably easy to understand. Our reptilian brain is more sensitive to potential dangers out there because it ultimately is there to keep us safe and keep us alive. The reptilian brain really sort of focuses very much upon base level things. So reproduction, food, safety, that sort of thing. Beyond that, it doesn't care what color your bedding is, whether your car's working, whether it's spring or autumn, whatever it might be. So, but when we don't have those big stressors from the old days, plus the fact we are bombarded with technology, that has a bigger negative impact on it. Yes, it can make working life quite simple because we are able to communicate so much more easily. However, when you consider the amount of electromagnetic fields that are buzzing around our bodies all the time, in the houses, the hubs that we use for our data, our phones that we've always bloody well got near us, haven't we? Or the majority of us have. And everything's buzzing all the time. There's always noise, traffic, air traffic, people. It's just noisy. And that all has an effect on our stress levels. And that is, aside from the processed foods that we eat, the fact that our soils are not very nutritious these days. So, a soil lacking in nutrients is going to grow vegetables that are also lacking in nutrients. That's where they get their nutritional value from when they are, obviously the sun, but also the earth that they're grown in. So we are under a lot of stress. We are bombarded by heavy metals from the sky, from planes. They're pretty mucky. Big time concrete and steel industries, they're chucking out loads of rubbish. Cars, heavy metals that run off from pesticides in the ground that get into our water system, the chemicals that are added to our water. We are bombarded consistently on every level, on every cellular level, by stress. So when our limbic system, our reptilian brain, is already become more sensitive, and we have this big heavy load of stress that's going on in our lives anyway, you can understand why we are so sensitive to stressors and anxiety, and that horrible sense of fear as we go through the menopause. I think it's interesting to note that over 100 years ago, scientists were trying to, they were linking low mood with falling estrogen levels, and actually we're using ovarian extracts to try and modulate that or modify that stress response as women went through the menopause. Our menopause hasn't got any later, but we're living a lot longer. So it's really important that we have ways of managing our stress levels throughout and beyond the menopause, regardless of whether you take HRT or not. So I think a lot of ladies that I talk to have, and this started to happen to me, which was really, really discombobulating, is driving. Now, I drive miles. I love driving. I fly helicopters. I love transportation. I think it's amazing. And all of a sudden I was going out on the road and I just felt like it was just, it's almost like I was lacking confidence in my ability to drive. And it didn't happen all the time, but I could just sort of sense it niggling at me. And the amount of women that I talk to, I mean, I'm a psychotherapist too, anxiety specialist, and the amount of ladies that I work with who have come to me because they can no longer drive, they can no longer get out of the house because of this fear that something is going to happen. I was lucky I recognized it coming on me straight away, and so I sort of took appropriate measures. A lot of them were logical measures, but just to understand that it wasn't my lack of skill in driving. And that phase passed. It didn't last long, but when that can make you even more fearful. And I talk to a lot of ladies also who just don't want to go out of the house. They used to be a bit nervous. They didn't like to, maybe they stopped answering the telephone. Maybe they stopped answering messages. Maybe they don't want to reply to text messages that they're getting. All these things have a big cumulative effect because it's like living in clutter. You've always got it there hanging around. You know the messages in your inbox. You know you're supposed to reply to them. You know the reply in and of itself isn't that hard to do. But for some reason, you have a dread almost of replying, because then you're committing to interaction, and the person who sent you the message might then message you back. So what if you're tired? What if you're busy? What if you just don't feel like replying straight away? And that is a common problem. So if you are struggling with that, as trivial as you might think that sounds, it's not at all trivial. There's a lot of ladies going through exactly, in fact, as a psychotherapist, I treat people with those problems a lot of the time. And you might think it's something completely insignificant and that you're being silly. It is not. The important thing that I really want you to take from this is that anxiety and that stress, fearful feeling is 100%. Anxiety itself is treatable. There is no reason at all why you should live locked in that fear of anxiety and all the dread that brings with it. There are things that you can do. If you're finding that you're getting to the stage where you're socially isolating and you know it's getting worse, please just go and seek help. It's really important that you do get help, because it has this insidious way of, these little tendrils, it's like the roots of a big tree. The tendrils move out and they seep into other aspects of your life. And what you don't want to do is to cut yourself off so largely that you really struggle to get back to normal functioning. So the text messages, the not wanting to see bank statements, the avoidance of phone calls, that irrational fear of being in the car. There's a lot of people out there struggling with the same thing. So don't think it's just you, and it is 100% treatable. So I just wanted to say that. Also, as our estrogen levels fall, so not only does it have a sort of negative impact on our limbic system, it also has a negative impact in the way that cortisol rises. Now, cortisol is one of our stress hormones. Cortisol plays a really important role in, when it's in the healthy levels, to help us deal with stress, to help us manage our normal lives. We need to have cortisol in our bodies. But because of the sort of the buildup of stressors that we're faced with every day, and obviously, you know, menopause in itself is a stressor because our bodies are consistently trying to find balance. Perimenopause, I think, is more of a roller coaster than beyond, once you've got beyond sort of post-menopause. But it still has that problem. You know, you mentally are still adjusting to being at a different stage of your life. And along with that comes a lot of dynamics. You know, relationships change, children leave home. You might struggle to be adjusting to becoming an empty nester. All of a sudden, you might find that that relationship that you had with your husband or your partner or your significant other, your wife, whatever it might be, is all of a sudden changing, and it's changing in a way that makes you feel very unsettled. You might have changed, and because you had the kids at home, it sort of diluted that to a degree, and now it's getting to the stage where you're realizing that, you know, you packed different suitcases, as it were, and that in and of itself brings a lot of stress. I have to say, at the end there is light at the end of that tunnel if you go down that route. When you finally sort of can release yourself from a relationship that is no longer serving you and doesn't need to be toxic, but if it's consistently bringing you down, and, you know, you deserve a life which doesn't consistently bring you down. And I'm not into sort of encouraging you to rush out of your relationship. Relationships are hard, and they can be hard. They take work. But if you feel like you've given it your effort and you really did pack different suitcases, bless and release, you know, free each other up to go out and live a life that aligns with both of your ideals better. And you can still stay friends. It doesn't need to be toxic. It doesn't need to be horrible. That's just life sometimes. So just knowing that you are going to have a heightened susceptibility to anxiety, to that horrid fear when it happens. I don't know about you, when I have a hot flush, that almost, it doesn't make me feel fearful, but there are times when I have a hot flush. I have some that aren't a problem. I just get warm and I strip the layers off. And there are others where I feel really uncomfortable in myself. I feel like I'm fizzing on the inside, and I almost feel nauseous, but it also has like an element of fear, but it's not fear. It's like almost somebody's charging me with an electric something or other that's in no defined spot, but it has a really yucky feeling about it. And I don't know if you get hot flushes like that. If you do, I'd be really interested to hear how you can describe them, because they're really, really hard to describe. But that in and of itself, I think, also contains an element of cortisol, because it's a really discomforting sensation when that type of hot flush. It's almost like an anxiety hot flush, even though I wouldn't call it anxiety, but it's just not a very nice hot flush. It's almost like an acidic type of barbed, electrically charged hot flush. Anyway, the way I get over those the best is I literally go and drink a pint of water. And another really fast way, if you've not got a face full of makeup, or you could actually use your neck and your wrist, is to just sprinkle or plunge your face into really cold water. It has an immediate effect of, if you struggle with panic attacks as well, it will have that immediate effect of resetting how you are. It's quite remarkable how effective it is. So if you struggle with those, maybe at work, you no longer want to talk at the meeting, but you've got to talk at the meeting, just go and take a flannel, get ice cold water, and pat yourself down as much as you can. If you wear makeup, obviously you're probably going to have to be a bit careful on your face, but you can do it around the back of your neck, on your wrist, under your arms, on your chest. Give yourself a really good cold patting over, and that will help to reset your stress response, as it were. So how can you help yourself cope better when these feelings of horrible fear come crashing down upon you? Firstly, reduce the amount of caffeine that you're drinking, because caffeine stimulates our stress response. And as much as you might like coffee, there is a lovely herbal alternative, because when I was having terrible joint pain, I cut out coffee and it worked incredibly well, or caffeine. I got Ticino. It's a bit pricey, but I literally cut out caffeine for a couple of months. Ticino, I probably got 2 packs, And I got it off iherb.com. You can also get it off Amazon. It's TEECCINO. I think might have 2 N's, but if you type in TEECCIN, it'll pop up because there aren't many things called Ticino. And I think it was the Java, which I thought was lovely, but they have all sorts of different combinations. Like I say, it's a completely herbal drink. It's not decaffeinated coffee, which is also not great for you. It's a herbal drink and it tastes pretty much like coffee rather. I actually found it just as nice as the nice coffee that I drink. So give that a go. Watch the amount of alcohol you drink. I love drinking, I really do. But also it does have a negative effect on you. There are some camps that say any element of alcohol is poor, it's bad for you, it's toxic to the body. There are other camps that say a couple of glasses of wine does you no harm at all. And there are a few camps that say, you know, 1 glass of wine is fine a night. In fact, there are people that say that it has benefits to you if you have 1 glass of wine a night. So I think you've just got to, you have to take your own approach on it. How does alcohol affect you? Do you need to drink? If it affects your sleep negatively, then cut it out. Maybe just drink at the weekends, or I just drink on high days and holidays now. There are days when I've been working hard in the garden, I really feel like a cold beer. I've managed to avoid it so far, but I enjoy beer and wine. I really do, and I like whiskey as well. So I don't think I will be teetotal forever, but I'm just trying to do it for occasional treats rather than like every day, which is what I've pretty much done my whole entire life, adult life. I hasten to add. Sugar also is, if you can just cut out refined sugars, eat fruit. Fruit's really good for you. It has masses of good stuff for us. But sugar, as in cookies, cakes, just, you know, refined sugars, cut it out. Cut out white carbs. So you don't need white bread, unless it's sourdough bread, because that's fermented and it's different. That's a whole different category of bread. But if you're going to eat carbs or sort of refined carbs, try and get whole wheat pasta, brown rice, wild rice, red rice, those sorts of things. Don't go for the white options. But sugar in and of itself, if you stick sugar in your tea, just stop drinking sugar. False sugars, what are they called, those artificial sweeteners, they're even worse than just normal sugar. If you have to have a sweetener, add honey, because at least it's a raw product, and you know, honey's pretty good for us. Make sure that you're eating tryptophan rich food. So tryptophan converts to serotonin in the body. Quickly, I'm just going to mention the fact if you struggle with IBS or leaky gut, or you have gut disorder problems, you are more at risk for low mood because you're not able to derive the nutrients from food like people with healthy guts are. And one of the biggest impacts is the fact that 90% of the serotonin that we create is created in the gut. So if you have a leaky gut issues, any kind of gut issue, you are going to be struggling with the amount of serotonin that you're releasing. We also have 50% of our dopamine, another of our happy hormones, gets created in the gut. And we need tryptophan in order to create serotonin. So tryptophan-rich foods, just off the top of my head, bananas, dark chocolate, turkey, chicken, soya, tofu, nut seeds, coriander. There's quite a few things that are high in tryptophan. Essentially, if you eat a healthy diet, I mean, as in food regimen, you are likely to be getting sufficient tryptophan. You could always do a Google, you know, foods highest in tryptophan, but those ones I've just mentioned are among the highest. So make sure you're eating a good selection of those, and make sure that you're preparing as much food as you can at home. Now, I'm also going to talk about exercise, because exercise is brilliant at helping us gobble up stress hormones and releasing feel-good hormones. However, if you're doing too much exercise, and particularly too much cardio-based exercise, you're actually going to be increasing your cortisol levels again, which is going to have a negative impact on you. So you need to be careful when you're menopausal. I recommend to all ladies to do as much strength training as they can, within limits, of course. The strength training workouts that I do are generally sort of 30 minutes long, 5 days a week, and they work on different body parts every day. So, you know, you're not like overworking one particular body part with a small amount of cardio. But, you know, strength training is cardio in and of itself as well. There are ways of doing cardio without it being a complete killer sweat session. And it's something that you do need to consider as you're going through the menopause, is to do much more strength training and not so much cardio. Get outside into the daylight. If you can get out, even if it's just for 10 minutes early in the morning, within sort of half an hour of getting up, maybe go and have your cup of coffee or tea or a glass of water on your front step and just get some daylight into your eyes. It will help you sleep better at night, but it also has a calming effect on you. I don't know, do you do barefoot walking? I love barefoot walking. I'm a little bit reluctant to say at the minute because we have a lot of ticks in Scotland, and I've been getting a lot of ticks because when I'm working out in the garden. And so I'm a little bit reluctant to go barefoot right at the moment, but I'm under the belief that tick season will soon be over in the next month or so. Barefooting is just so good because it helps you regulate the energies through your body. If you believe, you know, if you understand sort of that we're all connected, and that if you're into energy, just do a bit of barefooting on the grass. It's lovely, not on concrete, on the grass or wood. And then when you're feeling fearful or stressed, really be laser focused to work out what it is that's causing it. Is it just a change in your physiological state? Is it the fact, you know, it might be your hormones have changed and for some reason, you know, you've just had that spurt of cortisol and it's made you feel fearful? Or are you thirsty? When you're dehydrated, that has a terrible impact on how our stress hormones react. So make sure you're drinking plenty of water throughout the day. We need water. But just be focused, you know, be aware of, you know, I know when I have a cup of coffee, within seconds, I have a hot flush. Without a shadow of a doubt, coffee triggers a hot flush. So just become aware of what it is that you may have been doing or not doing before you had this episode of anxiety. Is it something that you've eaten? Is it something that you've had to drink? Did you sleep badly the night before? And so you're just feeling more stressed the day, you know, the day following. Sleep, again, is one of the best things that you can do to help your menopause journey. And I know it can be difficult to sleep through the menopause if you're having night sweats, hot flushes, you're getting this anxiety that's waking you up. And sometimes it does just affect your sleep cycle. However, there are things that a lot of us can do that we don't do. So get outside within 30 minutes of waking up. Avoiding caffeine after 2 o'clock, avoiding fizzy drinks because a lot of those contain caffeine, avoiding sugary stuff because that stresses you, so it makes going to sleep harder. Avoiding the television an hour before you go to bed, avoiding your phone an hour before you go to bed, avoiding any blue screens, 2 hours ideally. If you work on your laptop or your computer, turn it off 2 hours before you go to bed. They all have such a negative impact on how well you sleep, as well as your food and the drink that you're drinking. So there are a lot of things that a lot of us could do, and we choose not to. And we only have ourselves to blame, because when you really do focus on sleep hygiene, it has an incredibly positive impact on how well you sleep. I promise you it does, because I've slept badly for years, and eventually I had a talking to myself, and I'm really strict with how my sleep hygiene, my process before I go to bed, and it's made the world of difference, and I feel so much better for it. Deep breathing will also calm your stress response. So if you struggle with anxiety, what I would suggest is that you do a few rounds of deep breathing in the morning, if you need to at lunch, and then also before bed. It will get you into a nice calm state before bedtime. Deep breathing, you can either do box breathing, so breathe in slowly through your nose for 4 seconds, hold it for 4 seconds, breathe out slowly through your mouth for 4 seconds, and then hold that breath out for 4 seconds or 6 seconds, whatever is best for you. Or the way I prefer to do it is to breathe in absolutely till I fill my lungs slowly through my nose. I hold it for as long as I can, and then I breathe out slowly through my mouth, but I try and make the breath outward to take longer than the breath in. And then often I hold my empty lungs for a little while as well. Something I used to do when I used to try and sink to the bottom of the swimming pool and see how long I could stay down there. And it's much easier if you've taken all the air out of your lungs because you're no longer buoyant, so you can sit there a lot more easily. So try and experiment with deep breathing or, box breathing. That will help. Another thing that I find is just a no-brainer for me. Managing stress is adaptogen herbs. I know I talk about them a lot. I have them every single day. I take 8 of them: ashwagandha, cordyceps, astragalus, maytake, chaga, maca, reishi, and cordyceps. And they all have a slightly different, excuse me, I think I've got something in my throat. They all have a slightly different impact on how we balance our hormones and also how we manage stress. I think they are an absolute godsend. You can buy them separately from the health food store. I have mine in a little sachet that also has digestive enzymes and pre and probiotics, so it's really good for your gut health as well. Bearing in mind, gut health is very good for our serotonin, our dopamine, our mental health. Before bed, try drinking a sleepy tea, chamomile tea, that sort of thing. Lemon balm. Lemon balm is perfect if you struggle with anxiety. You could grow your own lemon balm plants. They grow very well outdoors. And then you can just steep some of those leaves in some, not boiling water, but hot water, and let that cool. And then you've got a lovely lemon balm tea as well. You can also buy lemon balm supplements from the shop. So consider getting some lemon balm. It works really well with anxiety. Chamomile is more calming, whereas lemon balm really is anti-anxiety, pretty much like adaptogen herbs are. Make sure you have enough magnesium in your diet. Magnesium is really good at helping keep us calm, as are B vitamins. B vitamins, if you're struggling with anxiety, just take a multi-B vitamin, and that will help you as well. Music. I mean, music is so evocative, isn't it? Play music that lifts your mood, and you'll find that will have a really massive impact. Also, stand up straight. When we change our physiology, it's incredible how that affects how we feel inside. You might be doom and gloom, and you've got your head forward and your shoulders are all rolled and your belly's sticking out and you can't breathe because your lungs have all collapsed. Take a deep breath in, stand upright, bring your shoulders back, look alert. It has such an impact on how you actually feel inside your body. Meditate. Meditation is so powerful. If you, I can't meditate. I'm absolutely rubbish at it. But I don't really. I think I manage well enough without meditating. If I was really struggling, I would make myself learn how to meditate more effectively. For me, I prefer the exercise and walking in nature, and deep breathing work really well for me. Yeah, we just have to find what works best for us. I'm going to suggest yoga as well. Personally, I'm not a great fan of yoga. I just don't. It just doesn't tick my boxes. But for those of you who it does, yoga is so beneficial for helping us deal with stress hormones. And I think the biggest one, apart from sleep, is time outside. Get outside, get into nature. It helps you connect with the expansion of the universe. You know, when we are stressed and anxious, everything revolves around us, and we become very insular, and it's me and how do I feel and how am I reacting and da-di-da-di-da. When you get outside, you know, we're not just we're not just this tiny island. Well, we are a tiny island, but there is so much more that we can give and contribute to and be part of. And thinking expansively is so much more healthy than the me, focusing all the time on how you're feeling, what might go wrong, what has gone wrong, and then ruminating on that. Yes, it takes a bit of a kick up the bum when you're in, and it's you giving you the kick up the bum, but I promise you it is worth doing that kick up the bum. Give yourself a reality check every now and again, and you know, can you lift yourself out of it? It's very easy to get stuck in this web of innerness, just thinking about, you know, yourself all the time. And it's you know, we are communal creatures. Even if you're an introverted communal creature, we still need community, and just that sense of belonging in the world. Even if you don't really want to belong alongside other people, you still belong in the world. You still have a place. And so getting out into nature is going to be one of the biggest things that will calm that stress response. It's evolutionary. We need to be outdoors. We need to connect with nature. We're not designed to live around concrete and boxes and be stuck within walls all the time. It's good for our roots, our sort of our primal needs to be outside. So if you're stuck indoors and you're feeling stressed and fearful, get outside. and, you know, breathe in the air and look around you, listen to the birds, listen to the wind rustling in the leaves in the trees. Really connect with the noises of nature. And if you live in a busy city, if you live in a busy town, take yourself out every now and again. Or the other thing you could always do is get outside, go for a walk, feel the breeze on your skin, and maybe download an app that has nature sounds. It's not as good as the real thing, but it might be sufficient, you know, a bit like music. It will help to calm that stress response. So I hope this has been helpful. You know, please comment what you find helps you the best when you're struggling with anxiety. Know that it is quite normal as we go through the menopause to have those episodes, but really get specific about what is causing them. Maybe keep a food and drink journal, or just track it. You know, when you have a fearful episode, what was happening beforehand? Was that the trigger? And become a real super sleuth at trying to work out what is causing that. Because we all have this habit of generalizing. Oh, the day was terrible. Everything went wrong. Well, no, it's highly unlikely everything did go wrong. You know, in all reality, not everything went wrong. You've just focused on the things that did go wrong. And we have this habit of catastrophizing. You know, how often do we, you know, something's pretty bad, but then we make it sound even worse than it was. I don't know, why do we do that? And the same goes for just overgeneralization. Focus on the things that went right instead of focusing on the things that went wrong. There is so much that we can do to make our situation better. It's either we're not aware of it, or we're not prepared to do it. And awareness is something we can learn. Preparedness to do it is on us. It's a choice. Anyway, I hope that was helpful to you, and I would be really interested to hear what you find works best for you to help you manage stress. If you've not clicked the subscribe button already, please make sure that you do so you don't miss a future episode. And if you found this helpful, please give me a thumbs up. I really, really appreciate it. All right, take care. Chat to you soon.